Hello and welcome to Xchange. I'm Marilyn Harris-Davis, sitting in for Alvin Gillard. We're here today at the Creative Alliance, an arts anchor in the Highlandtown community. We're talking about art and culture and how it defines us, how they both define us, how they reflect us and inform us. The inclusion of artistic expression and cultural destinations is a key element in creating and sustaining communities. Here today to talk with us about how Baltimore is supporting and energizing its arts community are Dr. Leslie King-Hammond, Graduate Dean Emeritus and Founding Director of the Center for Race and Culture at the Maryland Institute College of Art, and Board Chair at the Reginald Lewis Museum of African American History and Culture. And we have with us Javier Bustamente, publisher and editor of Colloquio.com, the online Hispanic cultural magazine, which is actually one of my favorites. Welcome to Xchange. Dr. Leslie King-Hammond.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bustamente. You know, the arts are a reflection, as I said, of who we are. They're an expression of our gender, race, culture, and ethnicity. Talk to us a little bit about how art expresses moods, fears, and desires, just the whole emotional aspect of it. I mean, sometimes you see a piece of art and you're like, okay, that's pretty, but it speaks to us. Different art speaks to us.
Art is something that is so individual. It's so personal, but it can also be so collective and so community-oriented. And art is an experience and a practice and a focus and a mystery.
Now, Ms. Bustamente, I noticed that in the Colloquio.com you have lots of color on the page.
They are primary colors. They're not pastels or somewhat diluted colors, but very primary colors. Strong reds and yellows and greens and blues and so on. And I think they reflect quite well part of what we call the Hispanic culture. But I'd like to add a little something to what she has said, which is absolutely true, and that is that art is very individual, but it is also community. Something very interesting has happened with our culture, the Hispanic culture in the United States. Before we came here, we all were Ecuadorian, Colombian, Brazilian, Argentinian, or Spaniards. Then all of a sudden we come here and we begin to coalesce into something that, in a sense, didn't exist before, some sort of a Hispanic culture.
Now, in terms of the language, there's so many different dialects of the Hispanic or Latino language that also I noticed in the art, the expression of art. I mean, I think that might be, and you correct me if I'm wrong, do you see that as a way of, once again, individualizing? I mean, Ecuadorian art might be different from Mexican art.
Very much so. But if you go down to South America, you're going to see many Indian tribes that still don't speak Spanish. They're so isolated. And they're very, very different racially speaking. And yet, they come here to the United States and right away they feel Hispanic, like the rest of the group.
I think I find the same thing with the African American culture. Correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I think that art informs us about the nature, the fundamental nature of each other's cultures. I mean, do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. So often you will see work that is presented, which may respond to specific cultural aspects or attitudes. And one part of your community, if you happen to be African American, will embrace it. And another part will think, oh my God, this is a blasphemous, horrible thing that happened.
Exactly.
So again, you have to look at issues of gender, you have to look at issues of class, you have to look at issues of religion, where the belief levels might be.
That's true.
And where they might butt against each other or rub or edge or cause a level of discomfort or euphoria.
You know, Colloquio is an interesting publication. I mean, you approach things from all perspectives. I mean, obviously, the age of computers and the internet has changed the expression of art. Can you talk to us a little bit about that?
Well, it started back in '86. I started
that long ago. I did not realize that.
But it was on paper at the time. And it began to gather some strength. And I went up to about almost 10,000 publication.
Really?
But it became very difficult to sustain because
Well,
it was expensive,
inexpensive.
and yeah, we had to distribute it through the mails, and it became prohibitive. And at that time, is in '94 is when the internet began to really expand. And so I got the idea, you know what, maybe I can reach as many, if not more, people by doing it on the web. I had a little reluctance at first because I was going to miss some of the little old ladies that would read me that now wouldn't be
Nothing
able
like
to
having your
because
cup of
they're not
coffee and
into,
reading a
yes.
paper, something you can touch and feel.
It was, it was the prehistorical days of the internet. So, but sooner or later, just reality hit me, and I said, well, we'll have to. And so I started doing so, and people began to flock right back again. People began to have computers, and it was a much more common thing. Then, of course, the libraries and schools and so on. And now I've gotten to the point of about 120,000 readers a month.
Wow.
And now, of course, they come from all over the world. It's not just the U.S.
Dr. King-Hammond, I noticed that in your particular moray of art, and I did attend an exhibit of yours not too terribly long ago, you express yourself with jewelry, mixed media, all kinds of forms of expression, and that you find that particularly fulfilling, or what made you use all kinds of mixed media?
Basically, I was living in a closet, very happy not to be discovered that I was making art myself.
Really? It was personally fulfilling.
You get a certain comfort telling other people what to do with their art.
Right.
And then you go home and you get comfort by doing your own art until somebody discovers that you do art and they pull you out of the closet. So my art really comes from my grandmother and my father.
Right.
My grandmother was a seamstress in the garment district.
See, it's generational. That's what I mean.
Generational. It took me a long time to accept that because I was conditioned to think that I should be a draftsman, or I should be a grand painter, or I should be a grand sculptor. And I had to go back and look at really the things that gave me passion and pleasure. So my grandmother was a seamstress. She was trained in embroidery and all of the needle fiber arts on the island of Barbados. My father was trained as a carpenter from Barbados. That was one of the standards of the curriculum of education there. And when they migrated to the United States, my father went to the Brooklyn Navy Yard. So he built battleships and aircraft
So you integrated all of those skills.
And I would help my father build a house, and I would help my grandmother make clothes, and then after a while I would make the clothes and she would do the high-end things, and I would do all of the regular things. And so I just began to also be very concerned about women's work and how the culture of mainstream art was dismissive about the things that women did because they were small, soft, or done by hand with a needle. And so I decided that my work was going to embrace those traditions and at the same time embrace my father's traditions of major building, which I didn't really get to do until I got a partner, Jose Mapili, who was an architect. And all of a sudden we started doing collaborations together. So he also is a builder, a designer, and I stitch. But the thing is that he grew up in a house where his mother was a quilter. So when I couldn't finish stitching my pieces, he had no problem picking it
up and helping to finish it.
helping to finish it. So we have this interchange, and it is that dynamic that draws me to mixed media and found objects.
Absolutely.
And what do you do with things that are just cast off?
Right, and as using them as a form of expression to tell the story of what they were.
That's right. Giving it new meaning, new life, re-energizing the vision, and also pointing attention to the people that we dismiss in our communities who we think are not important, are absolutely essential and critical to who we become.
Absolutely, absolutely. I could talk to you guys forever. Thank you so much for joining us. We will certainly revisit this at a future date. Please stay with us. We have to go to a break. We'll be back with Xchange.